The Galactic Union had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. It had crushed rebellions, erased civilizations, and established itself as the undisputed power of the universe. And in all those years, one truth remained the same. Humans were gone. They were a species lost to history, a myth told in whispers. Some called them legends, others dismissed them as old war propaganda. But today, something impossible had happened. A signal, one that should not exist, had been detected at the edge of space. A warship of unknown origin had entered the sector. And it was human. A disturbance in the void, high above the metallic skies of Velron 5. Admiral Salvik of the Galactic Defense Fleet stared at the holographic star map. The blinking red dot on the screen sent a chill through his core. An unidentified vessel had entered Union space. His officers worked in silence, their scales pale with tension. The bridge of the Gorithus Prime, his flagship, was usually filled with the hum of calm, calculated commands. But today, fear hung in the air. The Admiral's voice was sharp. "Are we certain of this?" His science officer, a four-eyed Veltran, swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. The energy signature matches the lost human warships from the archives." A murmur spread through the officers. Impossible. The humans had disappeared centuries ago. Their fleets were destroyed, their colonies erased. Yet, here it was, a human warship. Alive. Moving. Coming closer. Zalvik clenched his jaw. "Prepare the fleet. I want that ship surrounded." The denial of reality. News spread fast. Within hours, every high-ranking official in the Galactic Union had heard the impossible story. Many refused to believe it. "This is a mistake," said High Chancellor Vorlith during an emergency council meeting. "Humans are extinct. This must be a pirate trick, or perhaps an abandoned vessel." Others weren't so sure. "But what if it's real?" One counselor whispered. "What if they've returned?" Vorlith slammed his fist on the table. "Then we do what we have always done. We eliminate the threat." A fleet was immediately dispatched. 100 warships, the finest in the Union, were sent to intercept the unknown vessel. They would prove once and for all that humanity was nothing but a forgotten tale. First contact. Again, the fleet moved swiftly, surrounding the human warship near the gas giant Torvax 9. Admiral Salvik stood on the bridge, watching the unknown ship on the view screen. It was massive, unlike any design in Union records. It had no visible weapons, no insignia, just a dark, towering structure, drifting silently through space. Zalvik activated the comms. "Unidentified vessel, you are in restricted space. Power down your engines and surrender." No response. His comms officer tried again. "This is the Galactic Defense Fleet. Identify yourself, or we will open fire." Still, silence. Zalvik's fingers tightened. "Target their engines. Disable them." Its ships fired. Brilliant energy beams streaked through space. Direct hits on the warship's hull. And then, nothing. No damage. No shields flaring. The ship remained exactly as it was. The officers on the bridge exchanged nervous glances. Then, without warning, the human warship moved. In an instant, it jumped forward, appearing inside their formation. No hyperspace signature, no warp trail. It simply appeared. Zalvik's blood ran cold. "That's impossible." The human warship finally responded. A voice, cold and mechanical, echoed through every Union ship. "You should have listened to the warnings." And then, everything changed. The impossible weapon. A pulse of unseen energy erupted from the human warship. It wasn't fire, it wasn't plasma, it was something else. And in an instant, every Union warship went dark. Weapons, engines, shields, all offline. Panic spread like wildfire. Officers screamed. Pilots hammered at their controls. Zalvik's heart pounded. Systems reboot. Now, nothing. Then, on the view screen, he saw it. The human warship was still watching them, unmoving, unbothered. And at that moment, he understood. The humans had not been hiding. They had not been forgotten. They had been waiting. And now, they had returned. The Union fleet drifted helplessly in space. Admiral Salvik's warships, 100 of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy, were now nothing more than floating debris. Their systems were dead, engines offline, shields gone, weapons useless. And in front of them, the human warship waited. It had not fired a single shot. It had not launched a single fighter. Yet, it had already won. A voice from the void. A cold, metallic voice echoed through the darkened control rooms of every Union warship. You should have listened to the warnings. Salvik felt a chill run down his spine. The voice was human. It was deep, emotionless, yet carried a weight of power and judgment. His officers frantically worked their controls, trying to restore power. Nothing worked. Who are you? Salvik demanded. For a moment, there was silence. Then the voice replied, We are humanity. The word hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Salvik clenched his fists. That's impossible. Humans are extinct. The voice did not change. You assumed we were gone. That was your mistake. A flicker of energy surged through the Union fleet. Power returned for a brief second, enough for the view screens to activate. And then they saw it. A holographic transmission from inside the human warship. A single figure stood in the darkness. A humanoid shape, clad in a black uniform, face hidden in shadows. Only one thing was visible, 2 glowing blue eyes. And in those eyes, Salvik saw something he had never seen in any species before. Cold, calculated, unstoppable. The human figure tilted its head slightly. You thought it could never happen. You thought you were safe. The voice dropped lower. But now, we have returned. The panic in high command. Across the Union, the live transmission was being intercepted. Every major military outpost, every government facility, and even the Galactic Council itself watched in horror as the impossible unfolded before them. High Chancellor Vorlith stood frozen in his grand chamber. His advisors whispered in fear. One of them finally spoke. It's true. Vorlith slammed his claws against the table. It cannot be. We destroyed them. We erased their worlds. The room fell silent. That was the truth. The Union had not simply believed humans were extinct. They had ensured it. Centuries ago, when humanity first began expanding beyond their homeworld, the Union had seen their potential and feared it. They struck first. They launched a galactic purge, hunting down every human colony, every fleet, every last survivor. The final war records claimed it was a complete victory. But now, standing in the void, was proof that they had failed. Humanity was not extinct. Humanity was not forgotten. Humanity had been waiting. The first strike. Back in the Velrun 5 sector, Salvik knew his fleet was outmatched. Even if their systems came back online, what chance did they have? The human warship had not even attacked yet. He could not afford to wait. He made his decision. All ships, fire everything we have. Weapons powered up. Cannons locked onto the human warship. Then they fired. Hundreds of missiles, plasma torpedoes, and energy beams streaked through space, all converging on one target. It was a perfect attack. No ship could survive such an onslaught. And yet, the human warship did not move. The weapons reached their target and vanished. Salvik's breath caught in his throat. No explosions, no impact, just nothing. The weapons had simply ceased to exist. Then, the cold voice spoke again. You still do not understand. Suddenly, the human warship moved, faster than anything ever recorded. Before the Union fleet could react, it was inside their formation again. And then, for the first time, it attacked. The wrath of the lost. There was no fire, no plasma, no visible weaponry. Yet, one by one, Union warships collapsed. Massive battlecruisers cracked like glass. Dreadnoughts imploded in an instant. Not destroyed. Erased. Zalvik watched in horror as his fleet vanished into the void. His officers screamed. Escape pods launched. Pilots abandoned their ships. It didn't matter. Because nothing could run from the inevitable. Within seconds, the mighty fleet of the Galactic Union was gone. One ship remained. His. And then, Salvik's viewscreen flickered once more. The glowing blue eyes stared at him. "Tell your masters," the voice said. "We are coming." And then, the human warship disappeared. Gone. Like it had never been there at all. But Salvik knew the truth. It was real. It had happened. And it was only the beginning. Admiral Salvik sat in the wreckage of his command ship, the sole survivor of the greatest defeat in Union history. The once mighty Galactic Defense Fleet, 100 warships strong, was gone. Not destroyed. Not disabled. Erased. And the human warship vanished. It had come like a ghost, defying every law of war, physics, and reality itself. And now, the galaxy was waking up to a truth it had long feared. The humans were back. Whispers of fear. The news spread like wildfire. Within hours, every major power in the Union had heard about the impossible battle at Velrun 5. At first, many refused to believe it. How could one ship destroy an entire fleet? Then, the distress signals from Admiral Salvik's ship reached them. Encrypted files, audio logs, footage of the impossible, and one final message from the enemy. "Tell your masters, we are coming." Panic gripped the Union. This is a lie. Chancellor Vorlith roared in the Grand Council chamber. A trick by rebels. Pirates. The humans are extinct. But his advisors were silent. Because deep inside, they all knew the truth. They had lied to themselves for centuries. The humans were never extinct. They were waiting. A new kind of fear. Across the galaxy, worlds shook with fear. On military outposts, soldiers questioned their orders. On trade hubs, merchants spoke in hushed tones. On the distant fringes of space, old legends resurfaced. Elders from forgotten civilizations whispered old stories. The lost ones have returned. The ghosts of war have awakened. They have come for vengeance. Some planets shut down all communication, hoping to avoid drawing attention. Others armed themselves for war. And some prayed. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Union felt helpless. The shadow in the void. Deep within the restricted archives of the Union, a forgotten room came to life. The files were old, sealed away after the war against humanity. A figure in a dark uniform stared at the data. He was Admiral Vorka, the Union's highest-ranking military officer. And he was afraid. The data confirmed everything. The war against humanity had never truly ended. The final battle record spoke of a missing fleet. Not destroyed. Not captured. Lost. The human homeworld had gone silent, but something had survived. And now, after centuries, it had returned. Stronger, smarter, beyond understanding. The Union had thought time would erase the memory of humanity. But the humans had not forgotten. And if history had taught anything, humans never forgave. A desperate plan. In the Grand Council, emergency meetings were called. Chancellor Vorlith stood before the highest rulers of the galaxy. "We must act now." Some demanded war. "We must find them and destroy them before they strike again." Others begged for peace. "We cannot fight something we don't understand." But one question hung in the air, a question no one dared to speak. What if we already lost? Because if one human warship could erase a fleet, how many more were out there? And then, in the heart of the Union's capital, every screen flickered at once. The lights dimmed. The air turned cold. A voice, calm, powerful, inhuman, spoke across the stars. "You hunted us. You erased our worlds. You thought it could never happen, but now it begins. And then, silence. A silence more terrifying than war itself. Because now, the Union knew the truth. The storm was coming, and nothing could stop it. Panic spread across the Galactic Union like a wildfire. The mysterious human warship had erased an entire fleet without effort, without warning, and without leaving a trace. And now, the entire Union had received a chilling message. You hunted us. You erased our worlds. You thought it could never happen, but now it begins. For the first time in 10,000 years, the rulers of the galaxy realized something terrifying. They were not the hunters anymore. They were the prey. The Union's last hope. Chancellor Vorlith could not sleep. The Grand Council had been in session for 3 days straight. No one wanted to admit it, but the truth was clear. They were not ready for this war. One human warship had annihilated a fleet of their finest vessels. How many more were out there? The military wanted to strike first. Find them. Destroy them before they strike again. The scientists were terrified. We don't even know what we're fighting. The diplomats were desperate. Perhaps we can negotiate. Send a message of peace. But Vorlith knew better. Humans did not forget. And they did not forgive. This was not a warning. This was an execution. The ghosts of war. Deep in a hidden research station, Admiral Vorka studied the ancient war records. The last war against humanity had been brutal. At first, the Union had laughed at them. Primitive, weak, unworthy of the stars. But humanity had done something no species had ever done before. They adapted. Every time the Union developed a new weapon, humans found a counter. Every time a planet was destroyed, humans built in secret. Every time the Union thought it had won, humanity refused to die. It had taken everything, every fleet, every soldier, every weapon the Union had, to finally bring an end to humanity. And even then, some had escaped. The war records spoke of a missing fleet, a fleet that had disappeared into the void. And now, after centuries of silence, it had returned. Stronger, deadlier, unstoppable. A desperate alliance. In the shadows of the galaxy, the rebels watched. For centuries, smaller civilizations had suffered under Union rule. Their planets were stripped of resources. Their people were enslaved. But now, something had changed. The humans had returned. And they were not here to negotiate. Whispers spread among rebel factions. The Union fears them. For the first time, there was hope. What if they could ally with the humans? What if together they could break the Union's rule forever? Some leaders reached out with secret messages, but no response came. The humans remained silent. They were not looking for allies. They were looking for revenge. The first invasion. A deep space listening post near the outer rim detected something strange. A fleet. Massive, silent, unlike anything ever seen. It moved without a trace, undetectable to normal sensors. But when the station tried to send a message, it was already too late. The first planet fell within hours. Not bombed, not invaded. Simply erased. No distress signals, no survivors. Just silence. By the time the Union realized what was happening, it was already too late. The storm had arrived, and the humans had begun their hunt. The Union had always believed itself invincible. For 10,000 years, it had ruled the galaxy with an iron grip. No species had ever challenged its power and survived. But now, that era was over. The humans were here, and they were hunting the vanishing worlds. At first, the Union struggled to understand what was happening. Entire colonies were going dark. No distress calls. No survivors. No wreckage. Just emptiness where civilizations once stood. The Union sent fleets to investigate. None returned. Then, the first true message arrived. A single survivor's broadcast, weak and broken, repeating the same words over and over. They are here. We cannot stop them. They see everything. After that, the signal cut out. The Union had faced rebellions, rogue fleets, and invasions before. But this was different. The humans were not fighting a war. They were removing an infection. And the Union was the disease. The War Council's final gamble. Chancellor Vorlith was out of options. The Galactic Union's greatest fleets had been wiped out in silence. Every weapon they had, every strategy they tried. Nothing worked. The human warships moved like ghosts. Their weapons defied physics. Their attacks left nothing behind. "We have one option left," Admiral Vorka said grimly. Vorlith's claws clenched. He already knew what the Admiral was about to suggest. "We must find their homeworld." The room went silent. The human homeworld had been lost to time after the war. The Union had burned every human colony, wiped out every fleet, but their true home, Earth, had simply vanished. Now, it was the only key to survival. Find Earth. Destroy it. End the war before it consumed them all. But one question remained. What if Earth wasn't lost? What if the humans had hidden it on purpose? And worse, what if they were waiting for the Union to find it? The deadly trail. Union intelligence worked day and night, digging into ancient archives, searching for the last known coordinates of Earth. Every lead ended in nothing. Old star maps had been altered. Historical records were erased. Even captured human data files contained false information. It was as if Earth had never existed. And yet, the humans had returned. That meant Earth was still out there, hidden, protected. And when the Union finally found its location, it would be walking straight into the jaws of the beast. The trap is set. On the edge of known space, in the ruins of an old battlefield, a Union fleet arrived. Sensors had detected something. A single, small human outpost. A perfect target. It looked abandoned. No defenses. No ships. A tempting bait. Admiral Vorka gave the order. Send in the troops. Secure the outpost. Dropships descended. Soldiers moved in. And then, the stars themselves came alive. Out of nowhere, black warships materialized from the void. They did not announce themselves. They did not ask for surrender. They simply attacked. Within minutes, the entire Union fleet was gone. One ship barely managed to escape, its captain gasping into the comms. It was a trap. They knew we were coming. They were waiting for us. Then, silence. And far beyond the battle, hidden in the depths of space, a dark figure stood before a massive view screen, watching everything unfold. The human commander turned to his officers. "Now they know what it feels like," he said coldly. "Now the hunt truly begins." The Galactic Union had ruled for 10,000 years. It had crushed rebellions. It had wiped out entire civilizations. It had believed itself untouchable. But now, it was collapsing. The humans were not fighting a war. They were executing a judgment. And the Union's final days had begun. A galaxy in flames. The destruction was systematic. Human warships did not engage in prolonged battles. They appeared without warning and erased entire fleets in seconds. Their weapons left no survivors. Planets under Union control vanished overnight. Entire armadas were swallowed by the void. At first, Union commanders tried to fight back. But their greatest weapons were useless. Their best defenses were meaningless. Because the humans were not using technology the Union understood. They were using something else. Something far beyond science. Something that made them unstoppable. The last betrayals. As Union worlds burned, fear spread among its members. Once loyal allies saw the writing on the wall. The Valthar Dominion, a powerful faction within the Union, switched sides. Their leaders sent a secret message. "We surrender. We offer you everything. Just let us live." But there was no response. The humans did not negotiate. They did not accept surrender. They remembered the past. And they were making sure history would never repeat itself. The Union's last stand. The Union's final fleet, what remained of its once mighty navy, gathered at Sulfar Prime. Hundreds of warships, thousands of soldiers. Their mission: make a last stand, stop the humans at any cost. But when the enemy arrived, they did not come in a fleet. They did not send an armada. They sent one ship. A single, massive warship appeared in orbit, unlike anything the Union had ever seen. It was black as the void, silent, motionless. The Union commanders hesitated. Was this a trick, a distraction? And then, it spoke. Not through comms, not through signals, but directly into their minds. A voice, cold, powerful, unstoppable. You called us monsters. You called us ghosts. Now you will see what we truly are. And in an instant, the stars turned red. The end of the Union. The battle lasted only minutes. One by one, Union ships fell. Their weapons did nothing. Their shields collapsed like paper. The last transmissions were filled with screams. And then, silence. The Galactic Union, once the most powerful empire in history, was gone. Not conquered, not enslaved, erased. Nothing remained of its fleets. Nothing remained of its rulers. Just emptiness. And the humans, watching from the shadows. They had not come to rule. They had not come for revenge. They had come to finish what was started. And they had won. A whisper in the void. Across the galaxy, survivors hid in fear. Rebel factions emerged from hiding. Former Union worlds stood in silence. Everyone asked the same question. What happens now? Would the humans take over? Would they destroy everything? No one knew. Because after their final victory, the humans disappeared. Their ships vanished into the void. Their presence became a ghost story once more. They had returned to finish a war. And now that war was over. But one message remained, etched into the ruins of the Union's capital. We remember. We watch. Never again. And the galaxy understood. The humans were still out there, waiting, watching. And if anyone dared to repeat the past, they would return. The Galactic Union was no more. Its fleets had been erased. Its rulers had vanished. Its once great empire had crumbled into dust. The humans had returned, unleashed their unstoppable power, and then disappeared. No one knew where they had gone. No one knew if they would return. But their message remained, burned into the stars. We remember. We watch. Never again. The galaxy had learned its lesson. And no one would ever forget. The survivors, across the ruins of the Union, its former subjects picked up the pieces. Some worlds rejoiced. They had been under Union rule for centuries, oppressed, enslaved, controlled. Now, they were free. Other worlds mourned. Without the Union, chaos threatened to take over. Who would lead them now? Among the survivors, rumors spread. Some believed the humans had ascended beyond the stars. Others thought they had hidden themselves again, watching from the void. But the truth was something far stranger. Because in the deep, forgotten corners of space, human colonies still existed. A forgotten world. On the edge of the galaxy, a ship descended toward a long-lost planet. The surface was lush and green, untouched by war. As the ship landed, figures emerged. Humans. Not warriors. Not soldiers. Survivors. They had lived in hiding for centuries. And now, for the first time in history, they could step into the light. The war was over. Humanity was no longer hunted. And a new era was about to begin. A message in the darkness. Far away, in the depths of space, a secret signal was sent. Encrypted. Silent. Only one message was transmitted across the galaxy. Phase 1. Complete. No one knew where the message went. No one knew who sent it. But those who saw it felt a chill in their bones. Because one thing was certain. The humans were not done yet. They had won the war. But the real game had just begun.